"Don't go outside, sir." The waitress stopped the billionaire from leaving. The reason saved his life. What if a simple act of kindness from a stranger could save your life in ways you never imagined? On a cold December evening in downtown Chicago, 42-year-old tech mogul Robert Hayes sat alone in Rosie's diner, staring at his untouched coffee. The man who'd built a billion-dollar empire from nothing felt more lost than he had in years. His wife had filed for divorce that morning, citing his obsession with work. His teenage daughter hadn't spoken to him in months. The board was questioning his leadership after their latest product failed spectacularly. Behind the counter, 36-year-old waitress Monica wiped down glasses with practiced movements, her warm brown eyes occasionally glancing toward the troubled man in booth 7. She'd seen plenty of broken souls pass through these doors, but something about this one tugged at her heart. As Robert finally stood to leave, reaching for his coat, Monica felt an overwhelming urge to speak up. "Don't go outside, sir," she called out softly. "Please. Where are you watching from tonight?" Robert paused at Monica's words, his hand frozen on his coat sleeve. 23 years of running Rosie's diner had taught her to read people, and the man in the expensive suit carried the heaviest burden she'd seen all week. His shoulders sagged despite his perfect posture, and his eyes held the hollow look of someone who'd lost their way. "I'm sorry." Robert turned, confused by the waitress's gentle but urgent tone. Monica stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "The news just came over the radio. There's been a terrible accident on Michigan Avenue. Multi-car pileup in this storm. They're saying anyone heading that direction should wait it out." She gestured toward the window where snow was beginning to fall harder. "It's getting worse by the minute." Robert glanced outside and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Michigan Avenue was exactly where he'd been heading, back to his empty penthouse overlooking the lake. He'd planned to drive himself, something he rarely did anymore, but tonight he'd dismissed his driver, needing the solitude. "How did you know I was going that way?" he asked, settling back into the booth. Monica refilled his coffee, her movements gentle and practiced. "Lucky guess. Most folks dressed like you live in those fancy towers downtown." She smiled, no judgment in her voice. "Besides, you've got that look people get when they're running toward something or away from it. Either way, sometimes the universe has other plans." Robert studied her face, kind lines around her eyes that spoke of someone who'd seen both joy and hardship. Her name tag read Monica in cheerful blue letters, and she wore a small silver cross that caught the diner's warm light. "You believe in that? Does the universe have plans?" "I believe people show up in our lives when we need them most," Monica said, sliding a piece of warm apple pie toward him. "On the house. Looks like you could use some comfort food." As if on cue, the radio crackled with an update about the accident. "We're getting reports of at least 6 vehicles involved in the pileup on Michigan Avenue near the bridge. Emergency crews are on scene." Robert's face went pale. That bridge, he crossed it every single night. The warmth of the diner suddenly felt fragile against the growing storm outside. Robert stared at the pie, his appetite nowhere to be found, while Monica moved quietly around the nearly empty restaurant. Only 2 other customers remained, an elderly couple sharing a late dinner and a young man reading at the counter. "I should call someone," Robert muttered, reaching for his phone. "My assistant, the board will expect." He stopped mid-sentence, realizing there was no one waiting for him. His wife was staying at her sister's house. His daughter was at boarding school, probably asleep by now. His assistant had gone home hours ago. Monica noticed his struggle and sat down across from him, something she rarely did with customers. "Rough day?" she asked simply. The question broke something loose inside Robert. Maybe it was the shock of the near miss, or the kindness in this stranger's voice, but words began tumbling out. He told her about the divorce papers, about how his relentless drive for success had cost him everything that mattered. He spoke of his daughter's disappointed eyes and his wife's tired resignation. "I built this company to give them everything," he said, his voice cracking. "Turns out all they wanted was me to come home for dinner once in a while." Monica listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or offering a soft, "I understand." When he finished, she was quiet for a moment before speaking. "You know, I lost my husband 3 years ago," she said gently. "Cancer. And the thing that haunts me isn't the time we didn't have, it's the time we wasted being angry about small things." "You still have time, Robert." He looked up, surprised she'd remembered his name from his credit card. "How do you do it? Keep going when everything falls apart. One day at a time. One kind act at a time." Monica smiled. "Like tonight. Maybe I was supposed to keep you here for a reason." The radio crackled again with traffic updates, and Robert felt a chill as he realized the exact timing. If he'd left when he'd planned, he would have been right in the middle of that collision. But then Monica's expression changed as she looked toward the window. Her face went pale as she watched something outside. "Oh no," she whispered. "Robert, do you see that man out there? If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up." Through the snow-covered glass, a figure was stumbling along the sidewalk, clearly disoriented and underdressed for the storm. The man outside was elderly, wearing only a thin jacket and moving with the confused gait of someone lost in more ways than one. Monica was already reaching for her coat when Robert stood up. "Wait," Robert said, his business instincts kicking in. "We don't know who he is. This could be dangerous." Monica turned to him with gentle but firm eyes. "That's somebody's grandfather out there. Maybe somebody's husband. I can't just watch." She paused at the door. "My Harold got lost once, in the early stages of his dementia. A stranger brought him home safe that night. Sometimes we have to be that stranger." The weight of her words hit Robert like a physical blow. When had he become the kind of person who calculated risk before showing basic human kindness? When had his first thought become about protecting himself rather than helping others? Without another word, Robert pulled on his expensive overcoat and followed Monica into the storm. The wind cut through them immediately, but they pressed forward. The elderly man had collapsed on a bench, shivering violently. "Sir, are you okay?" Monica knelt beside him, her voice calm and reassuring. "Let's get you somewhere warm." The man looked up with cloudy eyes. I can't find my way home. I was supposed to meet Dorothy. She'll be worried." His words came out in confused fragments. Robert found himself removing his cashmere scarf and wrapping it around the man's shoulders. "What's your name, sir?" he asked gently. "Frank. Frank Morrison. I live on Maple Street, I think. Or maybe it's Oak." Monica and Robert exchanged glances. They needed to call for help, but the old man was hypothermic and fading fast. Without discussion, they each took one of Frank's arms and helped him back to the warmth of the diner. As they settled Frank in a booth and Monica brought hot chocolate, Robert called 911. While they waited for paramedics, Frank began to warm up and become more coherent. He showed them a photo in his wallet, himself with a woman who must be Dorothy, both beaming at the camera. "She's been gone 2 years now," Frank said softly. "Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I go looking for her." Robert felt tears he hadn't shed in years threatening to fall. Here was a man who'd loved so deeply that even dementia couldn't erase it. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments. When the paramedics arrived, Frank squeezed both their hands. "Thank you for bringing me home to Dorothy," he whispered, and somehow, they understood exactly what he meant. After Frank was safely on his way to the hospital, Monica and Robert sat in the quiet diner, both shaken by the evening's events. The storm outside had intensified, but inside, something had fundamentally shifted between them. "His family needs to be notified," Robert said, still holding Frank's wallet. "The paramedics said they'd handle it, but—" He trailed off, then looked directly at Monica. "I want to make sure he gets the best care possible, no matter what it costs." Monica studied his face. "You don't even know him." "I know he loved his wife enough that his heart still searches for her. I know he has children somewhere who are probably scared sick right now, and I know what it feels like to be lost. Robert pulled out his phone and made a series of calls. Within an hour, he'd arranged for Frank to be transferred to the city's best memory care facility, with all expenses covered. He'd also hired a private investigator to locate Frank's family. "Why?" Monica asked as he hung up from his final call. Robert was quiet for a long moment, watching the snow fall outside. 20 years ago, I was a kid from the South Side with a crazy idea about software. I went to 67 investors before someone took a chance on me. That someone was an old man named Frederick Morrison who owned a small investment firm. He believed in me when no one else would. Monica's eyes widened. Morrison. Frank's last name is Morrison. It might be nothing, but... Robert's voice caught. What if the universe really does have a plan? What if I was supposed to be here tonight, not just to avoid that accident, but to help Frank, to remember what really matters? The revelation hung in the air between them. Robert felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with profit margins or market share. "You know what I realized tonight," he continued. "I've been so busy building my empire that I forgot how to build relationships. My wife, my daughter, they don't need my money. They need me. Really me, not the version that's always checking emails and taking calls." Monica smiled, the first truly bright smile he'd seen from her all evening. "So what are you going to do about it?" If you've been enjoying this story, subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. Robert looked at his reflection in the window, seeing not the powerful CEO he'd become, but the hopeful young man he'd once been. "I'm going to go home tomorrow and fight for my family. But tonight..." He met Monica's eyes. "Tonight, I'm going to learn how to be human again." 3 months later, Robert returned to Rosie's diner on a warm spring evening. The same booth, the same gentle hum of conversation, but everything had changed. He wasn't alone this time. His 16-year-old daughter Emma sat across from him, laughing at something on her phone, while his wife Catherine studied the menu with genuine interest. Monica approached their table with a knowing smile. "Well, look who's back. How's Frank doing?" "Thriving," Robert replied warmly. "It turns out he is Frederick Morrison's younger brother. Frederick passed 5 years ago, but Frank's nephew flew in from Seattle the next day. They moved Frank to a beautiful facility near his family. His nephew calls me every week with updates." "And how are you doing?" Monica asked, noting the relaxed set of Robert's shoulders, the way his phone sat silently in his pocket. "Learning," Robert said simply. "Learning that success isn't what you accumulate, it's what you nurture. Learning that the best investment I ever made wasn't in technology, it was in taking time to understand what love actually looks like." Emma looked up from her phone. "Dad's been teaching me to code. We're building an app together to help families locate missing elderly relatives. It's actually pretty cool." Catherine reached across the table and squeezed Robert's hand. The board wasn't thrilled when he cut his hours in half, but the company's doing better than ever. Turns out when the CEO is actually present and engaged, people respond differently. Monica beamed. "And marriage counseling helped?" "That, and remembering why I fell in love with this woman in the first place," Robert said, looking at Catherine with eyes that held the wonder of rediscovery. "She used to say I was the most passionate man she'd ever met. Somewhere along the way, I channeled all that passion into work and forgot to save any for the people who mattered most." As they prepared to leave, Robert pressed something into Monica's hand, not money, but a small framed photo. It showed Frank sitting in a sunny garden, surrounded by family, holding a picture of Dorothy and smiling peacefully. "You saved more than one life that night," Robert told her quietly. "You saved mine too. Sometimes angels wear aprons and serve coffee at midnight." Monica wiped away a tear as she watched the family walk out together, Robert's arm around his daughter, Catherine's hand in his. The storm that had brought them together had passed, but it had left something beautiful in its wake. Outside, snow began to fall again, gentle this time, like a blessing. Through the window, She could see Robert helping his daughter into the car, while Catherine laughed at something he whispered in her ear. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales that remind us all what truly matters in life. Sometimes the most important journeys happen when we're brave enough to stay still long enough to help someone else find their way home.